It's a brave new world out there, folks. Opponents of individual liberty have pivoted from some of the more, unpopular tactics they've employed in the past to more of a guerrilla warfare style, using private companies to enforce their edicts. Now, we really need to understand this new landscape before we can create our own. Welcome, like and subscribe if you wish, and thank you for joining us. When I was choosing the title for these segments, there are a few of them on this topic, the word tyranny seemed a bit harsh. So I did a quick definition search, and guess what was one of the first things that came up? The tyranny of the 9-to-5 workday. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's tyrannical to work for the stuff you want to buy, but not, apparently, to put someone in jail for refusing to buy your stuff for you. Let's face it. The modern left is a logical basket case. Poverty is violence. Violence is peaceful. The answer to racism is racism. And free speech is what I say it is, lurching from cause to cause and declaring that everything except a Tesla is a human right. Give them time. But as incongruous as it may seem, the left is not stupid. Over the past few years, they have hit upon a strategy that is quickly undercutting our ability to communicate freely with each other. Of course, they continue to push the old tried and true expansion of the cradle to grave nanny state, by which they mean treat you like you were in a cradle until they put you in your grave. But in this segment, and others to come, we're going to focus on a multitude of new, or at least improved, tactics that the left is using to implement its agenda. One of their most effective tactics has been the outsourcing of this agenda to the private sector, using the lack of a moral compass as well as the ignorance of the average CEO. It has become very clear that an objective press has gone the way of the dodo bird or the passenger pigeon or maybe the intelligent boomer. But anyway, today we're going to focus on the fact that censorship is now a common element of everyday life in America. I think I need to say this again. For the very first time in our history, speech is being openly, regularly, and definitively censored to favor a political agenda. It's probably not a coincidence that due to the development of social media, this is the first time in history it's even been possible here in the US. Of course, you will find censorship of interpersonal communications not uncommon throughout the course of history, and even still in some parts of the world today. But for us here in America, this is a new thing. There are many obvious examples. Two that come to mind are Facebook's banning of the now widely accepted lab leak theory for the origin of COVID.
Oh my God! Oh my God! There's been an outbreak of chocolatey goodness near Hershey, Pennsylvania. What do you think happened? Like, I don't know, maybe a steam shovel mated with a cocoa bean. Or it's the chocolate factory. Maybe that's it.
Gotta respect a leftist who can see objective truth, even if it's only once in a while. Another example, YouTube's one-sided content warnings during the recent California recall election. But this censorship is not, for the most part, being done with the heavy hand of government, but by the Censor brothers, who currently have absolute and arbitrary control over much of our interpersonal communication. Now, this private censorship, as opposed to the garden variety government censorship used by some of our less imaginative neighbors, is an entirely different animal and a much more slippery problem to deal with. Luckily, there are some things we can do to combat this problem. And one thing we absolutely cannot do. Let's start with that. We cannot give the Censor brothers the regulatory protection they are seeking from the government. You think they want to be regulated for our good? You think this protection will ensure that their original mission to provide true diversity of political discourse, and that language is right from the Communications Decency Act that shields them from liability, by the way. Do you think they want to be regulated so that mission can be fulfilled? Not a chance. They're going to use regulation to bar entry from smaller players, enshrine their bias from this protected position, and increase their already considerable power. Not only can we not give them what they want, but...
Yeah, I should do the opposite. I should.
If every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right.
Yes, I will do the opposite. I used to sit here and do nothing and regret it for the rest of the day. So now I will do the opposite and I will do something.
So what can we do? I think it boils down to three main things. One, stop protecting them. Currently, the Censor brothers are enjoying the legal protection of something called Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Communications Decency Act. Yeah, how about some truth in advertising for a change? Maybe the Bait and Switch Act? Or how about the intentional misdirection of stupid voters law? Anyway, the stated intent of Section 230 was to keep platform owners from being held responsible for content posted on their platforms by third parties. The text of Section 230 both advocates for true diversity of political discourse and at the same time specifically allows the platform owner to remove anything it finds objectionable. These two statements, appearing in the same law, almost on the same page, are so preposterously contradictory, I can't imagine any rational argument supporting the continuation of Section 230. Or for that matter, the entire Communications Decency Act, or actually the great majority of the Federal Register, but that's a conversation for another time. There's a lot of controversy among free market advocates regarding the advisability of keeping Section 230. The main argument is that it effectively prevents even more government intrusion by preventing lawsuits. Now, I don't find this line of argument compelling. Clearly, the judicial system needs a major overhaul, as anybody who has been called to jury duty can plainly see. But I am not in favor of giving special liability protection to particular industries to protect them from the flaws in the current judicial system. Let the flaws become painfully obvious. Maybe then we'll be more motivated to fix them. Second thing we can do, sue them. Anyone who has ever been involved in a contract dispute knows the bros are vulnerable here. Steven Crowder is suing based on breach of contract. Sure, the bros can remove you from their platform, but they can't do it arbitrarily after entering into a contract with you whereby you provide content and they reap the rewards. Crowder describes this as hiring a builder to build your home, and then when it's finished, having the builder demand his foundation back. This kind of removal requires proof of contract breach, and they've offered no evidence that Crowder did anything other than say stuff they don't like. That is not contract breach. John Stossel is suing them for defamation for provably false statements they made about his contact. I love John Stossel. Good luck, John. Third thing we can do, starve them. This is a tough one because it requires us, yes us, to change our behavior. Hate it when that happens. And to have patience. Hate that too. We need to individually change our own behavior to support businesses we believe in, or at least disbelieve in less. Obviously, I'm still on YouTube for now, but I do what I can to support like-minded creators here, and I stopped using Facebook or Twitter or most other social media completely. For a look at alternative platforms some of us have started moving to, please see this rundown by my very favorite Mormon, on the other hand. Okay, the products that we buy. It's sad to say, but it's inescapable. These days, every time we buy a product, we are making a political decision. There are usually enough choices out there to make comparable choices, and when there are, we should avoid companies that openly oppose our values. Now, a while back, I saw an advertisement for the Gillette Company, which makes razors for men, and the focus of this ad was that the customers using their products were guilty of toxic masculinity and needed to be verbally and perhaps legally flogged. Now, this hit particularly close to home for me because, you see, a long time ago, before Mrs. Move showed me the error of my ways, I had an acquaintance who suggested I could possibly be afflicted with something this person called noxious masculinity, which, as I understand it, is not quite toxic, but not quite not. Anyway, I gotta say, I didn't appreciate being lectured by a company that was getting my money, and I pledged never again to buy their products. Unfortunately, I'm a Costco customer, so I had like 2 years worth of Gillette blades already, and I'm genetically incapable of wasting money. However, when those blades are gone, Procter & Gamble will be receiving a small box right over there, waiting, with its razor inside, and a note telling them just what I think of their woke policies. To be honest, the list of companies I've started moving away from is getting annoyingly long, but think about it like an exercise routine, or quitting smoking, or some other worthwhile lifestyle change. It's a commitment, but it's worth it. And like exercise, we don't have to do everything all at once. I still use Amazon, but I do use it a lot less. Whenever I get to thinking this is a hopeless fight, which I sometimes do, I remind myself of all the monopolies which supposedly posed an imminent threat to our societies at various times in the past. It's a very long list. The censor bros look invincible now. So did all these others in their day. And there are some success stories out there. We need to make more of them, and we can. So, we should all work to complain less and do more and shrink government any way we can. That's the way out of this in the long run. If that doesn't work out for you, you're always welcome to do your complaining here because you will always get a sympathetic ear.